Good evening. Thank you for joining us for our first in the CTACU webinar series this year, 2015-2016 Compensation and Benefits Agreement. Our goal tonight is to fully explain the tentative agreement, answer any questions you might have, and facilitate the ratification of this agreement on September 3rd. As a reminder, if you have questions during the presentation, you can use the tools either to raise your hand and ask a question or to type in a question into the box that you see on your screen. After the webinar, the entire presentation, along with an FAQ document, will be posted on our website later this week. I want to publicly thank our union negotiations team, Chief Negotiator David Freeland, Executive Board members Laura Lovett-Estima, Sandy Roan, Christine Hill, and Alan Matheson for the many hours of work they put in to get this agreement for you. I also want to acknowledge the efforts of the St. Lucie Public School District negotiating team in working with us in a collaborative fashion to achieve this agreement. I have with me tonight Christine Hill, Vice President of the CTA, Alan Matheson, Executive Board and Negotiating Team Member, and Lucy Bravo, Organizing and Communications Specialist, who will be here helping me manage the technology and also answering questions. So let's begin. First, in any negotiations, I'd like to explain the interests our team identified for compensation and benefit negotiations this year. These fall right in line with our union's beliefs about professional pay, healthy employees, and encouraging a workforce that chooses St. Lucie Public Schools and stays here over time. First, we wanted an agreement that helped our district recruit and retain employees. Next, we wanted everyone to see an actual increase in their paychecks while working within the confines of the law for pay for performance for teachers. And finally, we wanted to stop the gradual erosion of insurance benefits, as we know that all of our employees see good health benefits as just as important as a good salary. So what's actually in this agreement? First, about health insurance. The negotiated agreement for health insurance includes the continued $750 contribution to health savings accounts by the school board. This $750 will once again be available to all employees on January 1st, 2016 for the 2016 plan year. There will be no reduction in the amount the board pays towards employee premiums and no changes to the plan. That means no increases in deductibles, no decreases in coverage, and the board will continue to pay $6,010 towards your insurance premiums. And finally, there will be no premium increases for any of the Florida Blue plans for 2016. So unlike in some previous years where salary increases were eaten up by insurance increases, employees will see a real salary increase this year because their insurance benefits will remain the same. Now let's talk about the CU, or non-instructional staff, compensation agreement. This agreement is very different from the pay for performance and CTA agreement. So please don't confuse the two, because one we're going to talk about steps and the other one we're going to talk about how steps don't exist anymore. So let's first talk about CU. Each employee will get a step. For those employees that are what we call stepped out, or at the top of their salary schedule, we've added step 21 to all schedules with step movement for all at the top of the schedule. And $250 will be added to all schedules on whatever step you move to. Finally, a $3,000 supplement has been added to your salary schedules for master's degrees in an area that relates to your job. Now let's talk about the CTA Instructional Teachers Compensation Agreement. Here are some highlights of that agreement. There will be salary increases for all instructional employees. All teachers and instructional staff will receive increases no matter which salary plan you are on. This was a real concern to teachers on the grandfathered salary schedule as we looked at the law and the intention of the lawmakers to get people to give up their professional services and continuing contracts. We were very cognizant of that as we did this negotiation. So along those same lines, the pay for performance plan makes sure that new employees won't come into the district making more than those who have been here. Loyalty matters. And obviously the third bullet is self-explanatory. Folks on the grandfathered salary plan will receive the same increase as those on the pay for performance plan rated effective. Highlights. We've minimized the pay differential between teachers rated highly effective and effective. Teachers concerned or worrying about whether or not they should give up their professional services contract or continuing status for more money on the pay for performance plan are addressed through the unique way we have handled the implementation of the law so that we can alleviate many of those concerns. One of those ways is that the difference between effective and highly effective is very minimal. In addition, the law required a plan for differentiated pay based on certain defined factors. Our plan addresses them for all teachers, not just those on the pay for performance plan. Again, making sure that annual teachers and those with professional services contracts and continuing contracts were receiving a fair distribution of the money. So we've added $100 differentiated pay supplements for teachers working at Title I schools, certain DA schools, critical shortage areas, and schools that are Ds or Fs. So let's take a step back now and look at why we had to change what we were doing regarding pay for teachers. If you remember, legislation from 2011 required school districts to create two pay plans for teachers, a grandfathered plan and a pay for performance plan, and to pay teachers according to these plans by 2015-16. The grandfathered plan applies primarily to teachers hired prior to July 1, 2011, and those who have either a PSC or a professional services contract, or a CC, a continuing contract. The pay for performance plan applies primarily to teachers hired after July 1, 2011, and those who are on an annual or probationary contract. So after you listen to the entire presentation tonight, you may want to consider giving up your professional services or continuing contract. If you do, please know that your decision is irrevocable. You cannot change back. We wanted to make sure that you can make an informed decision so that the election period for that change will extend 15 days after the ratification of this entire agreement, which is set for September 3rd. Now let's actually start talking about the details of the pay for performance plan. The negotiated pay for performance plan in St. Lucie County mirrors the grandfathered pay plan. The initial slots are the same on both pay plans, and this is important because it maintains equity between both pay plans. A teacher's slot will no longer change. You won't move up a slot each year or when it's negotiated. But that's okay because of the way salaries must be calculated going forward. A teacher's salary will no longer match a slot after their first year in the district anyway. In other words, the slot placement on the grandfathered salary plan is the starting point from which all future increases will be added. You can't really use that plan to determine how much you will make in the future because salary increases will be negotiated and added to whatever your current salary is, not through movement up or down on a salary schedule. That's why we're calling them plans and not schedules. Work, you're asking. The law refers to increases to your salary as adjustments, so we're going to start calling them adjustments as well. Once an adjustment is awarded, it becomes part of the teacher's regular permanent salary. The following year, additional adjustments may be awarded, and the previous year's adjustments are continued. Salary goes up, but the slot ID stays the same because it's now just a letter representing where you entered the plan. So let's talk about the kinds of adjustments or increases that we've negotiated in St. Lucie County for pay for performance and grandfathered. The first kind of adjustment is called the retention adjustment. The language you see on the screen is the language from the contract explaining the retention adjustment, and it applies to both the pay for performance salary schedule and the grandfathered plan. And this is what the language actually means. The retention adjustment is negotiated and something that anyone who was here the previous year will receive. And it's also retroactive unless negotiated otherwise. This applies both to folks on the pay for performance plan and the grandfathered plan, and has nothing to do whether you've been rated effective or highly effective or needs improvement or anything else. Is the base adjustment. This is the language from the actual contract that you see on your screen. Which actually means. The base adjustment is just what it says on the slide. It is a negotiated amount, and only the base adjustment and the retention adjustment are negotiated each year. It increases each slot by the same amount. So all the other adjustments I'm going to talk about as we go forward now are computed through a formula from either the retention or the base adjustment. The grandfathered adjustment. This adjustment maintains the equity between the salary plans for effective teachers on the pay for performance plan and grandfathered teachers. It is equal to 2 times the amount of the base adjustment. There are 2 types of pay for performance adjustments we're going to talk about. One for teachers who are rated effective on the pay for performance plan, and one for teachers who are rated highly effective on the pay for performance plan. So the first type of pay for performance adjustment is the adjustment for teachers who are rated effective. This adjustment is also 2 times the amount of the base adjustment. The second type of pay for performance adjustment is for teachers rated highly effective and who are on the pay for performance plan. This one is also computed from the base adjustment, but instead of 2 times the base, it is 2.67 times the base, which is the minimum amount allowed in the actual law. So let's stop for just a minute and talk about some important points. The first thing is that the grandfathered and pay for performance adjustment for teachers rated effective are the same and determined by a formula. And just to note, new teachers entering the district receive only just the base adjustment. Now I'm going to show you some numbers which will make all of this make more sense to you. Are you ready to see how this works? I see some hands raised. Okay, here we go. Get ready. This is the exciting stuff. All this works in action. During negotiation, we used a calculator to put all the pieces together. The calculator was created by David Freeland and has been the center point of the work we have done to negotiate a fair increase for the different categories of teachers. We're going to look at the calculator piece by piece so you understand how your raise of either $1,600 or $1,767 for returning teachers and $250 for brand new teachers is calculated. Let's just take a look. Let's orient ourselves to what we're looking at. Now, I want to also mention that this is the number of employees down at the bottom. This is not actual numbers. We use this calculator just as an example for here. The actual calculator actually has different numbers here and a larger final total number. First, we have a column for the grandfathered teachers. We have a column for effective teachers. We have a column for highly effective and also for new teachers. And if you see here, this is a list of all of the types of adjustments we've been talking about. So let's first look at teachers on the grandfathered plan. The first thing that we would negotiate is the retention adjustment. Returning employees who were in the district at least 91 days last year are eligible for this adjustment. Only one retention adjustment amount is negotiated, and it applies to all salary plans. In this case, the retention adjustment is $850. That number 850 should ring a bell for you. Think about the old salary schedule and where that number may have come from. Next, the base adjustment is negotiated. Only the base adjustment is negotiated and applies to all salary plans. The base adjustment changes the amount of each slot. So, for example, for beginning teachers, slot A pays $37,400 before the base adjustment and $37,650 after the base adjustment. All teachers receive this adjustment. And so here you see it's $250. These are the actual numbers that we negotiated. After the base adjustment and the retention adjustment, everything else is simply part of the formula that we talked about earlier. So if you remember, the base adjustment, the grandfathered adjustment is 2 times the base adjustment. So you see that's $500. In order to, and then obviously, since this is the grandfathered plan, there's not a pay for performance adjustment because these folks are not subject to pay for performance. And the total salary adjustment for grandfathered teachers, or the total salary increase, is $1,600. All of the adjustments are added together for the final salary increase. This increase is added to a teacher's current salary and becomes part of the teacher's permanent compensation. Now, this is how you know this is live. And I won't touch it with my pointer. How about that? All right, $850 and $250 for retention and base adjustment. They don't receive the grandfathered adjustment because they're not on the grandfathered plan, but they do receive the pay for performance adjustment, which is 2 times the base adjustment, which is $500, and their final total annual salary adjustment is $1,600, which, if you remember, is the same as grandfathered. All right, now we can go. You notice that the 850 retention and the 250 base are the same. They don't receive a grandfathered adjustment. And now take a look at the pay for performance adjustment. If you remember, the pay for performance adjustment for highly effective teachers is the base adjustment times 2.67, which leads you to $667.50. So the final total annual salary adjustment for highly effective teachers is $1,767.50. You'll notice that that's only $167.50 different from either the grandfathered or the effective. Okay, let's just talk about new teachers. New teachers receive the base adjustment only. That's the adjustment that's added to all of the salary plans. So all new teachers coming in the district are receiving an extra $250, which raises our beginning teacher salary. Part of our rationale for minimizing the differences, let me of all of the total annual raises here. Part of our rationale for minimizing the differences here is that until the state can convince us that student performance scores applied to teachers are a valid and reliable measure, we chose to follow the letter of the law as required, but not unfairly punish those teachers for whom true, valid, and reliable measures of student performance are not available. And that's why there's only a difference of $1,600 here, and only a difference of $167.50 and $167.50. So as you're making your decision about whether or not you want to give up your grandfathered contract and your grandfathered status as a PSC or a CC, you want to think about the fact that what you'd be giving it up for is $167 this year. Piece of the law that I mentioned earlier was a requirement to have differentiated pay for teachers working in certain types of schools or with differing job responsibilities. So as part of the new pay plans, the supplements you see will be added to your pay if you fall within the categories mentioned. Keep in mind that this does not increase your base salary, as these are supplements, like any other supplement you would receive. They're supplements to the salary and not permanent. So a teacher could potentially earn an additional $400 on top of his or her salary for those differentiated categories. The one I do want to draw your attention to, though, is the critical shortage category. In that category, the district will be determining, as per the law, what the district's critical shortage areas are and providing that out to us. And they have not yet determined what those critical shortage areas are. Back to the beginning of the presentation and what our goals were in this negotiation. Let's take a look at how we did. First, we wanted an agreement that would encourage long-term commitments to St. Lucie Public Schools. As you can see, this agreement represents the largest permanent salary increase in several years. And while the beginning teacher salary was increased, the formula and pay plans provide additional adjustments for veteran teachers who have chosen to remain in St. Lucie Public Schools. We're really proud of the fact that we have been able to negotiate a retention adjustment that honors those folks who have chosen to stay in our district. We wanted to create a pay-for-performance plan that was within the law, but also met our needs. There were concerns early on with the pay-for-performance plan regarding how we would be able to increase the salaries of the grandfathered and veteran St. Lucie Public School teachers. Our agreement has been carefully crafted to increase the salaries of all teachers in a reasonable way. In our opinion, we have a model plan in this regard. Employees will see increase in their paychecks, whether they're annual or veteran teachers. And we've met the letter of the law while preserving equity between both salary plans. In many ways, the work our team has done on insurance benefits is truly astounding. Just weeks ago, we were still looking at double-digit increases in premiums from Blue Cross Blue Shield and the loss of the district's contribution to employee health savings accounts. We continued to meet with the district, we continued to talk to board members, we continued to speak to our members, and in a climate where everyone else is talking about the rising cost of insurance, we achieved a real win here for employees. Insurance premiums remain unchanged, no increases in cost, and no decreases in coverage. So what happens next? The board will be taking up the issue of this compensation and benefits agreement at the August 11th board meeting, which is tomorrow. And our members will have the opportunity to vote for ratification on September 3rd. More information will come out to all bargaining unit members on how and where to vote. And then, here's probably the thing that you've been wanting to know more than anything else. The district is working to have the increases reflected in September 15th paychecks. So now what I'd like to do is take some questions. Let me first say again that we will be posting the full webinar on our website this week, along with it an FAQ from the questions you asked tonight. If we don't get your question answered, please feel free to send it. And here's the contact information if you have additional questions or questions that were not answered either on the FAQ or during this presentation. You can send your questions to either me, Vicki Rodriguez, or David Freeland, the Chief Negotiator, at the addresses you see there. Thank you again for participating, and have a good evening.